If your census strategy starts with, "we can always discharge later," you're already doing it wrong. Today's guest isn't afraid to say the hard things, and he's here to challenge the industry to do better.
Welcome to From Leads to Leases, a CCR growth podcast that helps senior living providers transform their complex challenges into opportunities. Listen in for stories from industry leaders, innovative strategies, and insights. And with our expertise, learn how to increase occupancy faster, guaranteed.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of From Leads to Leases, the podcast that dives deep into the senior living and senior care industries, bringing you insights, strategies, and stories from the experts at the forefront of innovation, leadership, and care. I'm your host, Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth. And for those of you who don't know about us, CCR Growth is a full-service marketing and growth agency that's exclusive to the senior living industry. Through this podcast, I'm here to guide you through the evolving landscape of senior care, exploring the innovations, the strategies, and leadership insights that are shaping the future of the industry. So whether you're a provider, a caregiver, or industry leader, this show is here to help you make informed decisions and create meaningful impact. All right, today's guest is Robert Jakini, a seasoned operator, sales strategist, and culture-first executive with over 14 years of experience in senior care across Southern California and Nevada. With a background in both operations and business development and a powerful personal why, Robert brings a real-world perspective on leadership, ethical sales, and how to truly differentiate a community through experience and not just aesthetics. In today's episode, we got a lot to cover: why move-ins without long-term plans are hurting residents and operators, the true role of the executive director and how presence can outperform policy, and how experience-based differentiation beats luxury amenities every time. So, Robert, welcome to the
Thanks
show.
for having me, Jerry. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to you. You're like a well of knowledge here. So I wanted to just ask, as I said in the intro, you bring a powerful why. What is your why?
Well, most people who get into this business have some sort of reasoning. Something has motivated them to kind of look at this. And for me, I was in a situation where I had to look for someone for a place because, I'd been able to take care of them at home for a while, but it became unsafe. And so when I was looking for communities, I went and saw a lot of things that were less than what I would have expected. I would have hoped to see a little bit more engagement, more caring, but it was more like warehousing people. So it really kind of bothered me to see what I did. I ultimately found a place, but it still didn't meet the standard that I was hoping to see. So as I went along a little bit and experienced that with my family member, it was an aunt, I kind of thought to myself, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do a better job, because I looked at what was going on and I didn't really see anything that wasn't possible. It just wasn't being done. And so I made that shift into independent living first, which, as I mentioned, and to everybody I talk to, it's a wild, wild west. It's like you kind of see everything. And so you get a chance to learn about, all the different variances of people's need, from memory care needs, assisted living needs, clinical needs. You know who really should be where and who's not a good fit. So, and that was kind of what it was. It was really a personal thing that I wanted to do a better job.
When you have a personal experience like that, it definitely shapes everything, right? And all of a sudden now you want that level of care for your loved one, and it's disappointing when you can't find it.
It's 100% true. When you're looking in senior living, it's one of the most important decisions you're going to make. You're not grooming your dog. You're not taking your car to the mechanic. I mean, this is something that's life-changing, and it's not really something anybody dreams of. I mean, nobody dreams of the day, that they're going to need assisted living for their loved ones, that they're going to need memory care potentially, that these things are going to happen. And when you get there and then you're faced with your choices, it can be a little off-putting, it can be scary. And so part of the whole key for what we do is to make sure that process is a little more comfortable and people can understand that you've been there. I mean, I'm not experiencing this from standing outside looking in or being the person that's trying to encourage them to make a decision. I'm coming from it. I've been there. I know how you feel. I sat on the other side of the desk just like you are. I know what you're feeling. And I'm here to help you, feel better as much as we can. I can't fix the problem, but I can certainly try to make it better.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty profound way to look at it for sure. And I was just thinking about my family, or just families in general. And if you're looking for somebody else, you only have a few chances to get it right. right? And so that's a lot of pressure for someone. And it's not something we often think about until the time comes. A lot of people are not having that discussion 10, 15 years prior. What happens if this happens? If I need assisted living or I need memory care or something else, what's going to be the plan, you know?
Absolutely. And because pre-planning is important and, more
Mhm.
people are getting older. We're right now seeing the tail end of the baby boom is 60 years old. So you're looking at the average person who goes into senior living is going to be in between their 70s and 80s. The residents are going to be in there. And so you're looking at that window of time where you're going to see more and more people. And frankly, nobody really thought about it. Most people don't have a long-term care insurance policy that's going to take care of that. So it's really a very difficult situation, and it can be obviously emotionally trying and taxing, but it's also financially taxing, because it's a tough decision. I mean, if you go to a higher end memory care, that can be upwards of $100,000 a year.
Yeah, it's pretty daunting. Last time we spoke too, one of the things you said is you said, I didn't come to hold a position, I came to fulfill a purpose. So, given your experience that made you want to be in this industry, what does that purpose look like now in your work?
Well, for me, the most important thing is to really take care of people. We're in the people business. That's what we do. And my purpose is to help people navigate a very, very difficult personal situation, a very, very difficult family situation. It's a hard reality when people have to understand it's time that we have to do this. It's usually not met with a whole lot of, yeah, I agree. It's usually something that they're doing against the wishes of their parents. So there's a lot of conflicting feelings. But my purpose, more than anything else, is to help people get there and to be in a place where they are taken care of just as well as if it was them, to give them that sense of security that, mom or dad or grandfather or grandmother, aunt or uncle, whoever it may be, in some cases spouses, are going to get the higher level of care than you can deliver and the same amount of caring toward them, because that's really the key to the whole thing. People that work in these buildings, are caregivers, and that's really what it starts with, the care.
I know too, looking at the business side of senior living, there's often pressure from corporate to boost census at any cost. How do you balance the business side with ethical resident care? Because I know one of the things you said was not all business is good business.
No,
So,
it certainly is not. Because again, you've
yeah.
got to be appropriate for what you're doing. I wouldn't send you to a podiatrist if you're having a heart condition. So, I mean, you really need to go to the right people doing the right things. And sometimes I'm not that place. Sometimes it's not going to work. And in the long term, it just creates problems. Obviously, ethically, it's not okay. But the state of California also has rules and regulations, as do all states, regarding senior care. And so we really want to make sure we're doing the right thing by people. There's a lot of need. There's a lot of people. Waiting for the phone to ring and letting whoever walks in move in is not the best way to do it. You really have to be looking for the opportunities that best fit what you do. I mean, just like there's many brands of cars out there that you can choose, but maybe you need a van or maybe you need a truck. It just depends. Some people look at assisted living and memory care as like one just lump of what they do. And it's
Mhm.
completely independent, and that's dependent on how the community is run and really what their focus and culture is.
Just a side question too. I mean, I think a lot about just watching so many of these communities get acquired by some of the larger operators out there. And then you've got the really small, like micro communities that are considered boutique senior living, anywhere from like 3 to 5, maybe 10 residents at the most. But those are going for like 10, 15K a month at minimum for that type of experience. There's this group in the middle, the 10 to 50 room facilities or community, I don't want to say facilities, communities. How do they fit into the puzzle? I mean, because I feel like, it's like David versus Goliath here, but with the number of older adults who are entering the housing search, and as that number is going to increase, I feel like there's going to be more and more people looking at those smaller communities. But how do they compete in this market?
And that's a great question, because there is a place for everyone in this market. I mean, again, that they call it the blue tsunami is coming, and there's going to be more and more people in the need at different price points and different needs. I mean, you really have to be person centered and look at each individual and decide which is going to be the best environment for someone. Typically, the smaller communities are better for people who are maybe less social or tend to be overstimulated, because the big communities can be too much. I mean, it can be, they get lost in them. And that's really a difficult thing. And the last thing you want to do is take someone who's probably in front of you because of an isolation issue and put them in a situation where they're alone amongst a bunch of people, because that's even more difficult for them. So it's really kind of looking at the individual, but that market is very strong and there's a lot of capability there, but you have to really be able to differentiate yourself and what makes you different and what gives you the competitive edge against maybe being in a bigger place or even in a smaller community. So it really comes down to the experience, because I think everything in senior living comes down to experience. Not
For sure.
selling the walls, you're not selling the doors, and they're not walking out with a widget. I mean, this is all about that life experience.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be spending 24/7 there, it has to be a great experience. I just know, like for me and a lot of Gen Xers that I know, we tend to be more on the introverted side anyways. So the thought of living with 150, 200 other people is kind of daunting. I don't know that I would ever want to do that. I know a smaller community, if I were to move into a community, would be the way to go for sure.
Well, and that would be the fit for your personality, because a lot of times when people
Yeah.
are looking at it, they're going to look at, their clinical needs. You're going to look at some basic things. You're going to ask them some questions. What did they like to do? Okay. If you say you like to play poker, does that mean you like to play poker in a room with 100 people? Or do you want to play poker with 5 of your buddies? You know what I mean? So there's a big difference. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's not considered. And the personality is really important. Who is that person? Because they're still a person. They're still the same person, but who were they 20 years ago, 40 years ago? What was important to them? Because these are the things we want to continue to allow them to live the life that they wish to live, but with the additional support that being in a community is going to offer. And that's why having one size just doesn't fit all.
Yeah. No, definitely not. One of the things that you had talked about last time too were your 4 priorities, and I love these. You said resident, family, staff, and company, and in that order, and it's non-negotiable for you. Why is that?
Well, first and foremost, the residents not there because they dreamed of the day they got to come here. I mean, they're not there because they really want to be. If they had their way, in most cases, they want to stay in their own home. They want to be around their family. They don't understand why their family can't take care of them or why they can't just take care of themselves, especially the cognitively challenged people, because they don't realize that they can't take care of themselves. And a lot of people are in denial. But realistically speaking, that resident, they need to be cared for. They need to be taken care of. They may have psychological, physiological needs, care needs. They may have issues with all kinds of activities of daily living that they can no longer manage. So that's super important. We have to be there 100% for that. We have to take care of everything that they need. Secondly, the family is going through a lot. It's very, very difficult. When you finally have to make that decision, it's hard. It's very, very difficult. And they have to go through this process of kind of mourning what mom or dad used to be, and have to accept who they are today and what's going on in their needs. It's also expensive and difficult. So you really have to make sure that they see the value, that they see that the care is being delivered as it should be. So it's super important. A lot of times the family's kind of like, okay, they drop off mom, and then they don't hear anything from the community. And then when they finally do, it's, oh, well, mom is in the hospital. And it freaks them out. So, I mean, you have to really be present for them as well. It's super important. That's big for retention, is to be communicative and stay in front of those folks.
Mm-hmm.
We went through the whole COVID situation. We went through wildfires in California. It's super important that you communicate with people because they're afraid. In some cases, they're relocating themselves because of a situation or isolated themselves. So that communication is key. The staff has to be taken care of because they're doing the heavy lifting. I mean, when you think about it every day, these folks are coming in and doing things, for not a tremendously large amount of money. And they have to take care of these people. And so it's super important that the people are taken care of. I like to say that my job as an executive director or a leader is to take care of the people that take care of the people. And that's what you got to do. So if you've taken care of the resident, you've taken care of the family, and now you've taken care of the staff, the business will be okay. You'll have a full building because people aren't going to be leaving because they're unhappy. You're not going to be constantly spending a fortune on turnover because, that's something that shows up on the P&L. And it's expensive to replace care staff and to find people. And it's also difficult for the residents because they can get connected to people. They establish relationships, and that relationship is gone, and that affects their experience. So, like I said, the business side of this isn't all that hard. You got to control the controllables, but more than anything else, manage your business like it's your family. Take good care of everybody, care about them, support them, guide them, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, I love it. I love that philosophy. And one of my previous guests too, they were talking about retention, and they were talking about the cost of not retaining somebody. And I think it was like 2.5 times more expensive than when you retain a team member. So the time that you invest in education, the time you invest in wellness for that employee is far worth it when you look at the numbers on the other side of the coin.
If you take the time to take care of the people, it's much more cost effective than taking the time to constantly be replacing people.
Yeah. You've also worked in some hyper competitive markets that had multiple communities nearby. What are your go-to strategies for standing out in a situation like that?
I mean, more than anything else,
In a good way.
you have to be different. You have to do something different. I mean, we're all going to do the same things. We're going to feed people. We're going to house them. We're going to provide care. We're going to provide, socialization, hopefully, and effective socialization. But really, how you do those things matters. Okay. I mean, I would love to say that every community should be serving steak and lobster. A lot of people don't like crustaceans or are allergic to them. A lot of people can't eat the steak. So when you stop and think about that, that's not really going to work for them. That's not going to be it. What do they need? Well, first and foremost, to be noticed. One of the problems in senior living is that, the executive director kind of does his thing and the other people kind of do their thing and everybody's around there, but they're not seen. And if you can go to a Walmart or any other retail establishment nowadays and look around, and when you see a senior citizen, look at how, people walk around them. They don't see them. They almost ignore them. And if you're in this business, you actually see all that. You see people struggling. You see people trying to reach to the top shelf and can't get there. And they'll stand there trying to do things. And so, actually recognizing that these people are there and knowing who they are is very, very valuable. That's how you do it. I mean, because again, we're all going to provide some of the same basic things, but it's how you deliver that. And again, it's all experience based. When we're dining, we're having a meal together. We're visiting. We know who you are. Nothing's more powerful, especially when you're on a tour, when you're taking people around your building for the first time, when the executive director knows everybody's name and knows who they are, and the families know who he is. That's better than all the sales talk and all the, cute things that you can say, because they actually see the reality that this person is present and cares.
Sometimes I stop myself from helping someone. I'm like, if I was in their shoes, I would be annoyed that somebody thinks I need help right now. So I'm not gonna step in and help. And then I have to talk myself out of it and actually be like, would you like some help?
That's exactly how you do it. I was at the bank the other day. I had to go in the bank, and I was walking in. As I came out, I saw this lady, and it looked to be her mother that she was with. And she was trying to get her into the car. And she, had a cane, which she was kind of couldn't navigate very well with. She couldn't do it. And I walked by, I said, "May I help you?" And the daughter's like, "Yeah." And the mom's kind of looking. She goes, "Well, I guess." And so I said, "Okay." And then so I held her hand and I held the lower back and helped her down into her seat. And then I said, "Okay, now we got to get your legs over. So I need you to shift a little bit." So when I kind of gently lifted up at her calves and kind of got her in there. And she goes, "Are you like a physical therapist or something?" I said, "No, I work with seniors." I go, and I like to help people. She goes, "Well, thank you so much." And the daughter just looking at me going, "Thank God," because she was struggling. I mean, she couldn't figure out how to get her in there safely,
Yeah.
And so, and there's a lot of that out there. I mean, because, she probably lives somewhere where she gets help and support, and the daughter doesn't really know how to do it, and that's part of the thing. But yeah, you just have to ask. May I help you, please? You're doing me a favor because I get to do what I do, and that's kind of it. When I see people who need a little bit of assistance, it's just natural for me to want to help them.
Yeah. I love that. I love this industry because of that, because I think it changes people to want to step in and help people rather than just be standing on the sidelines all the time, watching people suffer or struggle. So,
Well, and it's very true. If you don't have a passion for this, if you don't care and something like that situation doesn't trigger something in you, this is just a hard job. And that goes for every member of the staff, every member of the team. They have to have that caring heart. They have to care, because if they don't care, it's just a tough job. There's easier ways to
Yeah.
make a living. And ultimately, you're not going to be successful in this industry if you don't bring your heart with you to work.
Another great thing you said last time is you said, we're not selling real estate, we're selling life. Can you explain how that mindset shifts how you operate a
Well,
community?
absolutely. I mean, of course, at the end of the day, we rent rooms to people, we rent space to them, but that's not really the key. That's just a roof over their head. They
Mhm.
could be under any roof anywhere. It's a lifestyle. You're bringing people into a new opportunity to be who they are and to have opportunity to do it in the way that they used to do it. I'm bringing them forward to have activities and things that are going to engage them. It's not about doing things at them or to them. It's doing things with them. And that's really what's important, is understanding that each individual has certain things that they like. Not everybody in their 70s likes bingo. It's not what they're necessarily going to do. Some people may, and so we coordinate that for them, and we do that. But even at that, it's not just sit there calling out numbers. It's a conversation. We're connecting, we're doing things. One of the most important things that my residents have always really loved is I would do a monthly auction. And so it was fun because when they attended activities or events, they would get little, community money that they could kind of hang on to
Mhm.
and do things with. And then at the end of the month, they would actually go to the auction. And I know it's hard for you to believe, but I'm the auctioneer. I'm able to talk pretty fast. And so I would do that. And they loved that I would get up there and auction things off. And it would be simple things, you know, things that they would like. You'd be surprised how excited people get over a set of hand towels. It's kind of a cool thing, or little grabbers to pick things up off the floor, but they're convenience items. Seniors love flashlights and stuff like that. So we would buy some really cool little things, towels and blankets, because they always like things like that. And we would auction it off. And it was a fun event, and everybody would have a good time. And it's not quiet, and it's not calm and serene. I tell people all the time, this isn't a mortuary. We're here to have some fun. So let's have a good time. And that's what we do. And so that's kind of what it comes down to. It's really the experience, coming into a community and feeling a sense of belonging, connecting with people, and then, allowing people to have time to kind of adjust and connect, but also time to basically be connected with. We encourage that bonding amongst each other. It's never too late to make friends. In fact, at one point in my career, I had the opportunity to attend a wedding in my community, which we hosted for a 93-year-old and a 95-year-old that met in the community.
Wow.
They both were widowed and had long marriages to their primary spouses. And at 93 and 95, they decided to jump in and do it again. And of course, we enjoyed it, and it was a wonderful thing for them. But I mean, life's not over because you're older. Life's not over because you're not 100% where you were 20 years ago or 40 years ago or whatever it may be. And that's the key. You bring the people into a world that is still engaging, a world that still has connectivity and things to make them feel purposeful. Because, you look at this, you think about the person's life. They were, possibly parents, most were. They had jobs, careers. Some of them were stay-at-home moms. Many people did many things. And now those things are now behind them. The children are all grown up and, they don't need to be taken care of and they're retired. So how do you create a sense of purpose? How do you give them that? Well, you find things that make them feel purposeful. I don't run all the activities, events, and neither does my team. A lot of my residents do. My residents are actually going to be the leaders. They're going to show me what they can do, and they're going to be part of the community. They're not just people who live there. When I go to work every day, I'm going to their house. They don't live where I work. It's a big difference.
And it's hard. It would be hard to say no to that. I mean, just the experience that you're delivering, that sounds very appealing to a large group of older adults. Anyone who wants to be a part of something that still has meaning and purpose, and you're not just a number. It is a home. It's not just a place that you're renting. So I love that. One of the things I want to talk to you about too is memory care, which is usually a crisis driven decision. How does that change the marketing and move-in process compared to independent living or assisted living?
Well, I mean, and typically the reason why it is a crisis-driven situation is because something didn't go well. And sometimes families are in denial, or they're not present as much as they could be. Maybe they see their mom a couple times a year because of geography or other things going on in their world. And so something didn't go well. And then at that point, they have to make that decision. The diagnosis is given, or the diagnosis has been around, but now we're at the point where we know it's no longer safe. And it's a tremendously different situation because, again, nobody wants to do this. Nobody looking forward to this. Nobody wants to really wrap their head around the fact that mom doesn't know how to do this anymore. She can't be safe with a kitchen. She can't be safe. Sometimes people have their car keys a little too long and something happens. But it's a lot different. So this is a trauma-driven situation where the people come to you traumatized. The resident probably in most cases doesn't really want to do this. Very few people, especially if you have cognitive issues, you don't realize you need to do this. So the adult children are typically the ones that are making this decision, or a spouse. And it's hard because it's almost an acceptance, okay, that this is not going to get better. It's not going to improve. And this is where we're at, and I can't handle it anymore. And that's a very, very harsh realization. So the sales process there is much more of a social situation. You're more of a social worker, guiding them through this and helping them understand why this is the right thing to do. Why right now is it okay for you to say, I can't do this? I mean, I can't manage this. It's not safe. It's not the best thing for mom. Because unfortunately, in some cases, people still think they can do it. It's okay. And then they find out it didn't go well. So they're racked with guilt. They are stressed out over it. They don't truly understand what memory care does. That's a little different than assisted living. And again, it's almost like, in fact, they even say it, they're putting their loved ones somewhere. Whereas assisted living sometimes is a decision that can be made over time. We can kind of say, well, we're thinking about it. This is what we're looking for. We've got to do this. This is usually, we've got to do something now. And, I don't want to put my mom in a place where she's just going to sit there and die. And instead, you're giving her the opportunity to live the fullest life she possibly can within the boundaries of her capabilities. And that's really important because you need to stay within those boundaries. We're not going to cure people, but we're going to help them have a better quality of life. And that's the idea, because once you get to that point where you are in a community, you've probably experienced cognitive decline for a considerable period of time. And there's been a lot of things that have changed in your world. And so we're able to help bring some of that back. A lot of it in memory care is kind of driven by memory prompting. And that's usually done through music or through historical things. I mean, how did you learn your ABCs? In song. And so one of the last things that actually people lose is the ability to enjoy their music and actually sing along and join it. I've seen people nonverbal who all of a sudden start singing a song that they know. So it's super important that we're paying attention to that and connecting to that. But again, being crisis driven, you've really got to support the family, even more so than otherwise. Like, the four things that are important. Family jumps almost side by side, if not as the same as the person you're caring for.
Absolutely. And then what role does experience-based reassurance play in helping families through a high emotion, high stakes decision?
Well, I mean, it's nice to know that the person you're talking to understands. I mean, it's very hard for you to be empathetic to someone about something you don't know anything about, you've never felt, and understanding that, you're not the first person that's going through this. You're not. Every person in here, they've had the same struggles, the same concerns, the same worry. And the experience that they're having right now is a sense of relief. They're dealing with that and sharing with them, what is mom's or dad's life going to be like moving forward? If you don't do anything, we know it's not going to go well again. If you make a decision, is it the right decision? Well, sure, it can be, as long as you understand what it means and how it's going to be. And being able to support someone through that, being able to kind of share and to be able to be there for them. I mean, it's not just the day they walk in and they sign up. You're going to be there for the long haul. Me personally in memory care, I run support groups, which allow them to come in and experience it, where they can get together and talk amongst each other with my support and share what it felt like. What did it feel like for you? See, you're not alone in this. It wasn't easy for anyone. So that's really kind of important because, again, there's a mourning process that goes through this. Just like when someone dies or someone, is admitted to hospice, where you start the mourning process. And it's hard. And so it does take a lot of people to do that. But understanding that I know how you feel, I know what you need, I know that this isn't something you want to be doing. You're not sitting across from me because, you like the donuts. You're here because you have to be. And so how can I take the sting of that pain away?
Shifting gears to leadership and mentorship, you believe that executive directors need to be out of their office and on the floor. Why is that physical presence so powerful?
More than anything else, I mean, again, it's a tough job, and they need to understand that you are with them. Okay, you're part of the team. You've got to be present in the community. It's good for the residents to know who you are, because in a senior living community, the executive director kind of takes over, kind of like the mayor. You're the mayor of the place. And so so you kind of got to do it. So they bring their concerns to you, and they voice their opinions to you. You can't do that if you're hiding in your office. Also, the staff needs to see that you are engaged, that you are there. You're telling them, get up every day and come to work and care, but then you're not, modeling that behavior. It's not
Hiding in
going
an
to
office.
work. I mean,
Yeah.
it's basically, you can hand them, a list of things that you can do and say, walk away. You have to be there. It also helps you with retention, because when the families see you out there and they see you interact and they see that their loved ones like you and care about you, it reinforces what you said. The best possible move-ins come from happy families that say, hey, man, my mom's doing great. You should bring your loved one there. Because typically the people who are moving their loved ones in, no other people have, loved ones that are in the same age group or somewhere near. And then taking care of your team. I mean, you truly can't say I care about you, but I don't want to see you move up in your world. I don't want to see you do better in your life. I mean, I take pride in the fact that I've assisted a number of people in all the different types of roles, go from being CNAs to LVNs or LVNs to RNs. I've helped a maintenance director become an actual community director. I've helped the salespeople move up and do that, because again, this business that we're in has no shortage of need for great talent. And if I can train you and teach you to come to work and care and to be an exceptional member of a community, then I want to see that happen. That's all the better for taking care of people. Again, there's not going to be a shortage of people that are going to be coming to these communities, but there sometimes can be a shortage of people who belong running them. You know what I mean? Not everybody's
Yeah.
cut out for it. And so we really want to get those people that are heart first and caring first, understand what their role truly is. It's not just a business operator, but that's part of it. It's just not, it's not small things, it's big things in small packages. It's the day to day. The big thing is care, take care of people, but it happens in little increments all day long. And so that's the key. I mean, I want to see great leaders move up. And again, it's also a sense of pride that I'm doing it right, and that I'm hopefully making a difference in people's lives. I mean, I have a stack of families who are still connected to me because of the experiences that they had. And I want these people to go on and do the same thing.
Aside from the physical presence, if you wanted to give some pointers to an executive director, what would be some practical things, or leadership teams, what would be some practical things that they could do to create the culture that you're describing?
Well, I mean, consistency is important. If I tell you something on Monday, it's going to be the same all week long. Okay, it's not going to change. I'm going to be supportive of you and what you're doing, understanding what you're doing, being there for you, helping you. I mean, you call me. I have had people that would radio to me in my office, say, can you come help me? And sure, I'll come out and help them. I'll do that. And that proves to them, something. I'm not just a guy with the suit coat on. I'm not just a guy that has the office in the corner. I'm the guy that's going to go out there and stand right beside you and care about the people. And again, it's that being a leader is being present. I've had people come and talk to me about all number of things, educational goals, personal situations. I have that ear for them because I genuinely care about them as human beings. If you come to work and you genuinely care, each situation will present itself and you'll know what to do because you're going to sit back and say, hey, I might have a couple years on you, but this is what I would do. And always encouraging them to be the best person they can be, rewarding the positive, but not punishing the negative, correcting, offering opportunities. And then as a leader, the best leaders in the world recognize when it's just not going to work. Because one of the worst things you can do to someone is allow them to come to work every day miserable. That they don't perform well, that every day they're wondering if this is the day that they're going to get sent home. It's a horrible feeling, and it's cruel to do that to people. So, you coach people up as much as you can, but sometimes you need to, be honest with them, say, maybe this isn't the best thing for you to be doing. Maybe there's other opportunities that you'd be a better fit at. What is it that really, you're passionate about? And maybe pursue that, because a lot of people think, hey, it's a job, taking care of people, same thing as, being a vet worker. No, it's a little different. Babysitting is
Yeah.
not the same thing as taking care of seniors with needs because they're not
Yeah.
babies. They're grown adults and they're people who deserve respect. And again, you can't make the decisions for them. Sometimes you need to make decisions with them, but never for them.
After our last conversation, I went upstairs and immediately said to my wife, he just said the best thing ever. He said, I want to leave every person better than I found them. That's not something that I got into the questions here. And I want to just bring that up because that little statement, it's stuck with me for the last month since we last spoke. And I think that just says so much about you and your character and what you hope to achieve in all the different roles that you've played.
Well, I mean, when you think about the gist of that, it's like, and this is a decision I made a long time ago, because we have choices in life. We have opportunities to do things. It's not just your own personal success or growth. It's not just your ability to move the needle forward for yourself. It's all about other people. And if you have that mentality, first and foremost, you spend a lot of time looking forward and not looking back over your shoulder, wondering who's coming for you. So there's a practical side of it. But the other side of it is just think about that. And it may be something very simple, like maybe saying hi to someone. It's the only time somebody said hi to them all day. It could be helping someone become more successful in their career, caring enough to listen to someone who needs a moment, picking up the phone and calling somebody that may be lonely or going through a tough time. Just simple little things, but it's powerful in the fact that, that focus means that you're not out to hurt or to take. You're here to care and to give. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be, sometimes it's the smallest things, people are having a bad day and you smiled at them, just having respect and appreciation for the people, letting people know that you care, whether it be words or action, it means a lot. So that's always been my goal. A lot of my, people that I've worked with over a long period of time, that was part of, how I helped them go where they wanted to go, just carrying that with me. And I think it's not a bad thing for everybody to kind of believe is to bring forth a better world by, one person at a time. That's what you do. I mean, you make things better by helping change things. And if you can make a person's life better, then why wouldn't you? I mean, that's just the way to do it. And again, it could be something simple.
Golden question. What do you wish more operators understood about culture and employee retention in senior living?
Well, I mean, again, you look at the cost side of it as a business. I mean, really sit down and do a deep dive into where you stand financially in the recruiting and cost of loss of production, because it's not just the cost of recruiting someone. It's not just the ad and the recruiters and the other people that you have to go through and the screening process and all the other fun stuff, but it's also the lost production. And you're going to have a person that even the best person who walks in with experience, they're still going to be 30 to 90-day learning curve where they become acclimated and understand, especially in senior living, because you're looking at, they got to get to know the residents. They got to get to know the process. Where do we keep things? How are things going? What do we do? So it can be very, very expensive. So how do you stop people from leaving? Make them not want to leave. It's not rocket
Yeah.
science. We're not reinventing the wheel. Make sure that they feel good. It's not necessarily handing them, a bag of cookies every day. That's not it. What is it that they really need? What is it they really want? They want you to care about them. They want you to be honest with them. They want you to be present with them. They want you to, keep your word. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. You want to make, it's a tough working environment. Make it as easy as possible. Make sure they have all the tools and resources that they need. Don't put them in a situation where they feel that they're having to maybe compromise their ethics. Because if you really got good people and you did a good job screening them, they came to work going, I want to take care of people, not I want to get paid and, get out there as fast as I can. And that's kind of the problem. A lot of things with the staffing shortages, people just took who would come in the door. But that costs you in the long run because it damages the morale amongst the other people. The people who truly do care have to deal with the people who don't. And that's hard for them. And it's demoralizing for them. Why am I working so hard when these people don't do anything? They sit on their phone all day. So creating that culture, that environment where we all care, where, you're recognized. I mean, I used to hand out a little award for people when I caught them doing something right. And that was the key. Because a lot of times, the ED's looking around for problems, right? The HSD, the nurse, is looking for problems. Everybody's walking around looking for problems. Like, no, problems will find my desk. Strangely enough, I end up hearing and finding everything out because my team trusts me and they share with me. And so the problems find me. How about I go out there and just
Yeah.
catch you just being extra special? When I do my stand up, I reward you for that and I share it with everybody else because that's important because, $1 an hour only makes you feel better for a while. Not that people don't need money, but knowing that you're appreciated and that your contributions to the happiness of the residents and the productivity of the program and the profitability of the business, that's worth a lot more because then they become a functioning part of the solution and not part of the problem.
I know you've also turned around some distressed or underperforming communities. If I were an owner or management group listening to this, what should I expect when I bring someone like you into a community like that?
Well, what I'm going to do first and foremost is find out why things are wrong. I can look at a P&L and see that they're wrong. I can look at a community whose first impressions aren't really where they should be. I can walk through the parking lot and tell if anybody cares. I can look at the condition of the rooms. I can do all kinds of things and see what's wrong. But the question is, why is it wrong? And that's what you've really got to do. You hire me to find out why. Then you hire me to come up with a solution to fix it. Because the reality is anything can be corrected and fixed. It just depends on whether we really solve the problem or do we just put a Band-Aid on it? Are we going to temporarily change something? Well, that's not going to necessarily yield us a permanent change now, is it? We have to really look at what needs to change. And most of the time, there's a cultural issue and there's a problem with that. A lot of times, it's maybe the product isn't presented the right way. And when I talk about the product, it's not just the physical plant. It's not just that the paint isn't looking nice or the carpets are dirty. The product that we really sell more than anything else is the people. Because really, care is what we deliver. The box we do it in, yes, it's nice to have it looking good and show that we're professionals and we do a great job. But realistically speaking, the human beings are going to be really what makes our community attractive to people. So how do they feel? What's going on with them? We're going to figure that out. We're going to figure out what needs to be done. I can get somebody to paint the walls. I can get the carpet replaced. We can do all that. It's a little more difficult to get the human beings to be shiny and new and pretty like the paint job and the carpet. And that requires them believing there's a reason to do it and that they want to. And that's the way that it is. Because again, if most people were hired the right way, they want to make a difference. They want it to be better. They want to fix it. They want to be part of the solution. They don't want to be part of the program that fails. They want to be part of the program that grows. So you get them involved. If you go in a community that I've been in for any period of time, everybody will acknowledge people when they're in the building. Doesn't matter who they are. Everybody can tell you all about the community and they can tell you why it's a great place. And there'll be you know, modeling the behaviors that we want them to do. And so when you bring in new people, the standard is higher. The standard is better, and that's visible. And so,
Okay.
and then of course, if there's, cost issues that need to be managed, we can look at that. Are we staffed correctly? Unfortunately, overstaffing is expensive, but understaffing is more expensive because we're paying a lot more for, God forbid, contract labor. But beyond that, we're paying a lot more in overtime. Burnout. People who are overworked tend to have more workman's comp issues. They tend to call out more often. So managing that part of it, it's the human side of it is always going to solve most of the problems. Really get the humans in the right place, the right people doing the right things. Most of the business things beyond that can be just managed. It's just a matter of making adjustments.
And like attracts like. So if you're turning the culture around, it's naturally going to gravitate towards the right people.
And that's it. And the people who really want to be there. I mean, more than anything else, if you need a job, I understand, but this isn't just a job. This has to be something you love. Because if you don't love doing it, if you don't love taking care of the people, you may be okay. You may get by. You may be, the workhorse that does things, but you're never going to really, truly be where you need to be. This is a job that requires a servant mentality where you want to take care of people. You want to make sure that people feel better. And if you truly feel that way, you'll be very successful. You'll do well.
Robert, thank you so much for such a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure, Jerry. It's always nice to talk to you, and it's always nice to be able to share kind of things. I think sometimes when you're in this business for a while, some of the things that we've talked about maybe just kind of get pushed aside. You get kind of stuck not seeing the forest for all the trees. And sometimes this little refresher is great, but I learn every day in this business. I'm constantly gaining more insight, and my goal is to, continue to grow and grow with the market and grow with the new people that are coming in, whether it be the new Gen Zs, Gen Xs, or whether it's kind of learning new things that we can do to make the world for seniors better. But it's podcasts like yours that kind of help because you're sharing with people that have insight, and hopefully something that I've had to say today helps people. And again, hopefully I've left everybody better than I found them.
I have no doubt. You certainly have left me better than you found me. So I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
So how can people connect with you and follow your
Well,
work?
I can be found on LinkedIn. I'm on there. It's Robert Jakini. It's pretty simple. There's no other Jakinis running around on there. So you type in my last name, you'll find me. And you can connect up. I mean, I'm, always open for a conversation. If someone has a question, concern, issue, something happening, I don't have to be working with you to work with you, and that's the way it is. If anything I can do to support you, that's fine. And again, I'm always interested in seeing people do better. So whatever it is, I mean, my background is in sales, marketing, and business. So I could talk about that too, but my passion is making people's worlds better. So anything I can do to help people out there, don't hesitate to reach out.
Love it. Love it. All right. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want to extend a huge thank you to Robert Jakini for joining us and sharing his refreshingly honest perspective on leadership, census strategy, and doing the right thing in senior care. His passion for people-first operations and ethical decision-making is exactly the kind of insight we need more of in this industry. So if you want to stay connected with Robert or learn more about his approach to senior living leadership, we've included his link to his LinkedIn profile in the show notes, so make sure to check that out. And as always, we hope you found this episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore the evolving world of senior care, where we cover everything from innovative care models and leadership strategies to family support, technology, and the future of aging. And remember that From Leads to Leases isn't just an audio experience. If you want to see the video versions, like the one here with Robert, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube or Spotify channel. So I'm Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth. Thank you for joining us on From Leads to Leases, and please like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who might find it useful. I'm truly grateful for your time and attention, and until next time, lead with strategy and with heart. Chat with you again soon. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you. Take care, Jerry.
Thanks for listening to From Leads to Leases. Are you ready to fill your rooms faster and increase occupancy? Visit ccrgrowth.com to learn about our Senior Growth Innovation Suite, a proven system to generate highly qualified, tour-ready leads, accelerate sales, and reduce acquisition costs. Let's connect and turn your challenges into opportunities. See you next time.